Hi, this is Jennifer here with City Farmhouse Antiques, and I am here to talk to you a little bit today about, what is American Brilliant cut glass or cut glass. And so this is a really special piece. This was actually a piece of my grandmother's. So this piece is not for sale, never will be for sale, and it was a piece of hers. And so I plan to keep it and cherish it forever. You can see, look at those sharp edges. This piece will cut you. I just cleaned it before I showed it to you. You have to be super, super careful when cleaning these pieces, and you cannot think about anything else. Just because they'll cut you, they're sharp, and then of course when you have soap on your hands, your hands get very slippery. But look at the brilliance. So that's what I want you to see when you're looking at a piece of cut glass. These are all hand cut facets. And when we talk about American Brilliant, we're talking about a period in the United States when cut glass was made. And so American Brilliant, and I'm talking about American Brilliant because we're really kind of coming up on, or the 100-year mark for American Brilliant glass, and that's when American Brilliant or anything, antiques, all these things, different kinds of glass, kind of get more notoriety when they come up on those 100-year anniversaries. More notoriety, values and prices go up on these types of pieces, and so that's why I wanted to talk about it today. But the American Brilliant period was really from about 1876 to World War I, and this type of cut glass was made with a high lead content, and that's why it's so beautiful. But it was made in Europe to start, and so back in the late 1800s or 1800s, I should say, when people started coming over to the United States, we had glass companies that were started, and they would bring over glass craftsmen from Europe who had apprenticeships, and these apprenticeships would take 6 to 8 years for them to learn their skill. They'd bring them to the United States because all of our glass prior to this, our beautiful crystal and those types of things, were all imported from Europe. So only the wealthy could afford these pieces. So we started making these types of pieces in the United States, hiring craftsmen from Europe, and then the price and the pieces came down. However, these types of cut glass pieces were only made really for the wealthy. So they were used in the White House, they were used for very important establishments and people in government and that kind of thing way back then. They did about the same time, because the middle class and other people couldn't even afford to eat on glass or use glass. They did invent and start making pressed glass, which you will see as semen, because they're molded and pressed and mass produced during this time, so everybody could eventually eat on glass. But these pieces that were made in America, they began to compete and want to have pieces that were as beautiful as what was coming out of Europe. So they actually even sent some pieces over to Europe to participate in world fairs, that kind of thing, where they won ribbons, they won awards, and this is when this American Brilliant period was, when they were able to compete with Europe. This type of glass was all the rage. People wanted it, and it was very sought after in this time. And then it really kind of came to an end in World War I, because you can see the brilliance on these pieces. Like I mentioned, they have a high lead content, anywhere from 25 to 35%. Of course, the higher the lead content, the heavier the piece is going to be. These pieces, that's going to be one clue when you pick these pieces up. They're going to be very heavy because of the lead content. They're going to be very thick. When you look at the thickness of a piece, they're going to be very thick. They're not going to be thin. And these pieces are all hand cut. So if you can imagine the hours that went into hand cutting this piece, the more patterns there are, the more variety to the patterns, the higher quality and the more expensive the piece. The larger the piece, is also another good indicator. I mean, look at all of the facets underneath this piece. Now, a lot of people say, will these, or ask, will these pieces be signed? There were a lot of pieces that were not signed. There were some pieces that were signed. You're going to see an acid etching signature if there is one. And typically they're going to be on the bottom, or they're going to be on an edge that is flat where you don't have a facet. But look at how sharp, and looky there. There is a signature. So my grandmother's piece is signed. You can see there. See that? And the trick to finding a signature is you've got to get in really good light, and you've got to tilt that piece just like you saw me do, because look how easily you can miss it. So as you rotate that piece, and you've got to be very careful when you rotate it. I would never put this on this edge. You will break the points. So you got to be very careful. You can even put a towel or something underneath it, or I just have a preference even to take it outside. I can see everything better outside. If I'm looking for chips, cracks, any blemishes, the sunlight will pick up on everything, and it makes it much easier to see. Again, these pieces were made of lead. They were made of silica or sand, and then potash. But you can just see the refractive properties. Here's another gorgeous piece. Now this piece is up on our website. It's beautiful. I found this at an antique shop a few years back, and it is just gorgeous. Look at the edges on this piece too. This piece will also cut you. And you can see all of the different facets and cuts in this piece, and there's a picture of the bottom. So again, American Brilliant is a period. These are cut glass pieces, which is very different from just a regular, different type of glass like crystal. And cut glass, of course, is hand blown. It's put into molds, and then it's hand cut. And that is how these pieces were made. And again, we are really at that 100-year kind of mark. So everything increases in value, notoriety, whether it's no matter what type of antique or glass or art glass, when you hit that 100-year mark. So that's why I wanted to talk a little bit about American Brilliant glass, what it looks like, and how to identify it. And I always think of it as, I mean, this looks like a bowl full of diamonds. I mean, it's just beautiful. Who wouldn't love to look at this all day? So anyway, be sure and check out all of our great pieces on our website at www.cityfarmhouseantiques.com, where we have more than just antiques. And be sure and sign up for our newsletter, where we've got all of our newest finds. We've got a lot of different home decor pieces, garden pieces, different things. Sign up for our newsletter and hit the subscribe button on my video, and give me tips on what you'd like to see and tips on anything on my videos. We are always open to constructive criticism. Have a wonderful, wonderful week.